Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my fiance demands that I stop being friends with my ex or she'll call off our wedding and our entire relationship. Background: my ex-girlfriend Emma, who's 26, and I, 26 male, were together for 9 years. We started dating back in middle school and we broke things off when we were 22. We were friends since first grade. We grew up together and our families became quite close, and our friendship circles were always intertwined at some point or another. This will be important for later. We drifted in different directions as we got older, and we realized that what we wanted from our relationships were ultimately different. We no longer had romantic feelings for one another, so we decided that we would be better off as friends. We were best friends anyway. There hasn't been anything romantic since we broke up, nothing of a love-type nature. A quick hug here and there, and to just say goodbye at the most. I truly haven't felt that way about her since things ended, and she's been the same. The breakup was very amicable. Now on to the issue. My fiancé, Sarah, who's 24, and I have been together for almost 3 years now, and I proposed a few days ago, and we're set to be married this year. I was so happy when she said yes. Our relationship has been great, amazing communication, always smiling together. It's been wonderful. She knew about my past with Emma as I was very upfront with her about it when we first started dating, as Emma and I are still friends. Our families still get together for sporting events, have parties, and hang out together all the time. My parents are really close to hers, and our siblings are also good friends too. They're all really close with each other. They even have a weekly pizza night. We also have a few common friends. I didn't want Sarah to feel uncomfortable at any point, so I tried really hard to let her know everything I could, and to take the right steps to show her that she's my number one. I would always include her in family events, make sure my family would spend time with her, and have even tried to create our own rituals together. I adore this girl. I think she's incredible, and from the day that I met her, I've been head over heels. She hasn't voiced a single problem to me about any of this until today. She would even encourage me to invite Emma over to our get-togethers that we have hosted, or along to movies with dinner and our other friends. I was under the impression Sarah really liked her, especially considering the extra effort she would make to include her. Sarah and Emma have always gotten along, and they haven't been anything but nice to one another. I thought they were friends. She told me today, after taking time to think about it, that our friendship is weird and shouldn't continue. She gave me an ultimatum: to end our friendship or she will end our relationship. She said she feels disrespected I would even consider keeping someone I had a relationship with in my life. I couldn't get a single word in before she left. She's staying with a friend tonight. I don't understand how any of this could happen. She seemed happy. This is meant to be a positive time in our relationship. She said nothing has happened between her, Emma, or our families. I don't know what to do. She's been blowing up my phone with texts, and I don't know what to say. I thought I did everything right. Emma and I are still friends. Not overly close though, but we definitely don't cross any kind of boundaries together. We don't speak about anything inappropriate or do anything that we shouldn't. She's also in a relationship at the moment. We don't talk every day, and we don't see each other one-on-one or very frequently. Sarah has also mentioned that she is uncomfortable with our family spending time together after we broke up, and wants me to put an end to that behavior as well. I can't control what my family does, who they see or who they're friends with. They have been nothing but kind to Sarah. They make a real effort to make her feel special and even include her family. I don't know what to do. Is my friendship wrong? Should I talk to our families? Or is this ultimatum unfair? Edit. I just want to mention, because I've gotten a few comments about it, that Emma and I are no longer close. I see her at events that she's invited to, or when Sarah invites her along with us and our friends to do something. I don't actively seek her out for one-on-one time or invite her places myself. I don't even message her or text her. She's in a relationship too. Our families are close. Parents are best friends, and our siblings grew up together. They even still have sleepovers. That means I'll see her sometimes or run into her, and it's really hard to avoid, but I really do try. I wanted to make that clear. I have made an effort to set up boundaries to make Sarah as comfortable as possible. I've tried so hard. What has she said in these text messages? OP. The texts are where her feelings about our families being close came in. She only voiced the fact she didn't want Emma and I to have anything to do with one another before she left and raced out of the door. I've tried calling her, but she won't answer. I've left voicemails telling her that I want to talk, but I haven't heard a response beyond "make a choice." You obviously don't control who your family has as friends. Will she then insist you cut off your family when they continue to be friends with Emma and her family? Your significant other is being unreasonable and unrealistic. Are there other worrisome, controlling behaviors she engages in that you perhaps haven't addressed? OP. She hasn't been controlling, or if she has, I haven't been able to tell. When we first started hosting get-togethers though and going out, I didn't mention Emma or inviting her. I thought it would be more of a couple thing that we did for us and our friends, but she would insist that Emma came along, even though I never asked. That's the worst she's been in my opinion, because she really wanted her to come. She wouldn't let it go. At the time, I figured she just wanted to be friends. Now I'm thinking it could have meant something else. Sarah never acted maliciously in those settings. She only ever wanted to talk to Emma about shows, music, etc. She had a few things in common with her that she didn't have anyone else to talk to about them with. Update. I couldn't get a hold of Sarah for 2 days. She wouldn't answer my calls or my messages. I left her a voicemail asking her to come home or to meet up somewhere for coffee so we could talk together. I let her know that I loved her and that she would always be first. I heard nothing back. She's never been like this. If we had an issue, we would always talk it through. We even had a pact to never go to bed mad at one another, and we never have. But she didn't come home. She didn't even reply to me. At first, I thought she wanted some time to cool down, but just kept getting later and later. I couldn't stop thinking she would walk back through the door, but she didn't. I heard nothing from her. I could barely get any sleep. I texted her, explaining I'd do whatever I could to show her how much she means to me. I explained the only reason I saw Emma was at gatherings for mutual friends and family friends that she tagged along to, or when Sarah invited her to events herself. I told her she didn't have to do that and that I didn't want it or need it. I only wanted her. I said I wouldn't attend any get-togethers I knew Emma would attend at all. I also tried my best to explain that our families were very close before Emma and I got together and that I couldn't control who they were friends with. I did tell her we could talk though, and that we would maybe come up with something together that would make her feel more comfortable. I let her know my family loves her. She didn't reply. It took everything I had to not keep calling her to see if she was okay, but I didn't want to upset her any further. I still hadn't heard from her by the afternoon of the next day. I tried calling again, but it just kept ringing. I sent her another message telling her that I just wanted to know if she was okay, and that if I didn't hear back from her soon, I would have to start calling her family or her friends. I didn't know if something had happened to her. This was so out of character. She's never done it before. I was so worried. She texted me back straight away. I'm fine. I'm not coming home. That was it. I tried to call her. I knew she was right there. I figured she would pick up. I called, but she had turned her phone off. I didn't know what to do. I felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. I didn't know what I should be doing. I didn't know what would bring her home. I just wanted to talk. I wanted to make it better. I ended up going to my parents' house last night. They live close by, about 5 minutes on a slow day. I was an absolute mess, and I didn't think I could cope by myself. It was about 8 p.m. when I went over, and I hadn't heard from her again. I went to bed in the spare room. I was only asleep for a few hours when crap started to hit the fan. My phone was going off, and it was Sarah. "Where are you? Did you run back to her?" I had no idea what she was talking about. I told her that I was at my parents'. I told her I was coming home. I begged her to please just stay. I was fumbling trying to get myself dressed and find my keys. It was about 2 in the morning. I kept dropping everything. I wanted to be gone. I was halfway out the door, and that's when it happened. She pulled up into the driveway and was absolutely livid when she got out of the car. She was screaming at me, yelling her head off, and no matter what I did, she wouldn't calm down. The street my parents live on is fairly echoey. She was loud, and people started flicking their lights on, and our neighbors started to come out onto their porches. It was insane. My parents came outside too, and my mother started to try to talk to her. They've always gotten along well, and she wasn't responding to me no matter how much I tried. Sarah was not having it. She told me that she knew what I had been doing behind her back, that her family knew, and I was lucky enough to be given a chance to cut my ties and move on after having an affair for so long. I have never cheated on her, let alone had an affair. I love Sarah. I wanted to marry her and be with her. It didn't matter what I said. She wouldn't believe me. She wouldn't listen. She kept calling me every name under the sun. My mother asked her to please come inside to talk, as it was a misunderstanding, that I loved her, that they loved her, and we just needed to talk it through. Sarah started calling my mom all sorts of names, a terrible mother, a crappy person, told her that she knew I was apparently doing it, and even encouraged it, how sick she was for that. My mother tried to explain herself that this wasn't happening, and that's when Sarah attacked her, out of nowhere. I went silent. My mother started to cry. Sarah started apologizing over and over. It was instant regret, or at least it looked that way. It didn't matter. I ended it right there. I told her to go, that the engagement was off, we were over, and that she needed to get her things from my house. She was crying, still apologizing, but you can't come back from that. After what she did to my mom, who's shown her nothing but love, and for her to do that to someone, let alone someone that means so much to me, that was enough. I don't know why she wouldn't listen to me. I don't know why she chose to believe these other people over me, why she wouldn't even talk, but it doesn't matter. I've never felt this empty. I gave 3 years of my life to someone who refused to even talk to me or believe me. I thought I knew her. I thought she was kind. How can you go so long with someone and not even know what they could be capable of? All I know at this point is that I plan to stay single for a while. Her behavior is extraordinarily odd. I would reach out to a few friends of hers you really know that you can trust and let them know what kind of bad shape she's in. Honestly, the kind of sudden shift sounds like it could be from a brain tumor or a mental health issue. It also could be that she was feeling stressed in some way and has had some kind of breakdown under all of the stress. OP, there's a few friends of hers that I can contact, so I definitely will. Thank you. I still care about her deeply and want nothing but the best for her, but this just isn't something that I can move past. Any possibility that Emma told Sarah she was having an affair with you? Sarah's behavior is just too odd to come out of nowhere. OP, from what Sarah did tell me last night, and from what she has messaged me since, it was members of her family that told her. Her family has never been close to or met mine. I only met them briefly. They have declined every invitation to get together. From what I know, they haven't gotten to know any of Sarah's exes or their families. My best guess is that the concept is extremely foreign to them, so something had to be amiss in their eyes, or maybe they didn't like me. Sarah loves her family though. The fact this news came from them is probably why she believed it without any second thought. How is your poor mother holding up after all of this, OP? OP, my mother is one tough lady and she's handling it well, considering, but I haven't seen her this upset in a really long time. She was excited about our wedding. She thought Sarah was the greatest girl I've ever brought home. She considered her a daughter and a friend, which is what hurt her the most, I think. She's definitely getting there though. She even started cracking jokes that I just shouldn't date anymore and buy a dog instead. Ignoring the update, I get the fiance's feelings. My mother for a long time refused to stop seeing my ex or their family. How do you explain this to a future relationship? In my experience, it never ends well. No matter how you cut it, the new partner and their family will never get to bond with your family like the other did, so they will always be second in your family's lives. I get you can't control what your parents can do, but it's a fairly hard lose-lose if they don't also cut ties when you break it off. I would have no interest in being with someone whose ex was so deeply rooted in their life. Now, granted, I would have just politely broken it off early in the relationship. Something major has been left out of this story, either because OP is oblivious or doesn't want us to know. It's possible that his fiancé has told him repeatedly that she's not happy about his ongoing relationship with his ex and he simply blew it off. Or it's possible that his relationship with his ex is far closer, at least emotionally, than he wants to admit, to the point that marrying him would also be the equivalent of marrying his ex. It's possible that his fiancé just wanted to break up with him for a long time. It's highly likely that things have not been as great between the two of them as OP has told us. This lightning bolt didn't come out of clear sky. Well, what do you think? Would you be able to date someone whose ex was still a part of their family life or not? Please let us know. We all have our own preferences and things that we're comfortable with. But if Reddit boy still had his ex in his life, he'd need a new head. My wife only sends me Zillow postings that are out of our budget. My wife and I are moving back home near my family so we can have support when we eventually start our own family. We wanted to buy a house and have a hard cap at $575,000. For the last 3 months, she's been sending me Zillow postings after Zillow postings of houses that are going for $725,000 to $800,000. I've mentioned our budget, but she has yet to send a house at or below it. When I send her houses that do match our budget, all of them give her bad vibes. My mother has now started sending me Zillow postings. She's very excited about us coming back. The latest one being an 80-acre ranch for $1.4 million. Her comment being something like, Wouldn't this just be great to raise a family on? Yes, Mom. Yes, it would be. Probably unreasonable to feel frustrated by it, but it's got me feeling like I'm not earning enough to match expectations. Does your wife agree with the budget, or did you decide it unilaterally? OP. We sat down together and I told her what I'd prefer and what I'm comfortable with. We live off my earnings, as all her salary goes to paying off her student loans. It was originally $525K, but after discussing it, we squeezed our current spending and increased our budget to $575K. Is it possible that your wife doesn't want to move? OP. She put in her notice at work on her own, so I don't think that's the case. We talk about it often. All our friends are back home. I've never gotten the slightest vibe that this could be the case. And we're moving across country. She just told her work she's leaving in a couple of months. She has interviews lined up for the new location. Half of $750,000 is better than $500,000 in the future divorce. Update. Y'all need to chill or take a break from the internet. People in the comments telling me my marriage is doomed and I had better just walk away now. Wild jump from something that's kind of annoying to me. She's a lost cause, abandoned ship. So I talked to my wife and I told her how I felt about seeing nothing but out-of-budget houses being sent to me, and this crazy thing happened. She apologized, said she was just sending me houses she liked but knew we couldn't get because for her it was fun to look at things we could work towards. Wasn't aware how much it was eating at me. We decided to rent for another year until we know for a fact she lands a decent job in the new area and is solidified in it. My husband and I have been house hunting for over a year. My max comfortable budget is $1.5 million. According to the Zillows he forwards me, it seems his comfortable budget is $3 to $5 million. Not sure how he's planning to pay for that besides waiting for a long-lost rich uncle to die, but it's definitely taking us a while to find our dream house. Well, at least I know I'm not the only one who loves looking at houses that I know I can't afford. Am I the jerk for being too hard on my dad by saying that he let me down when he chose being married over what was best for me? My dad and I, 17 female, started therapy 3 weeks ago, and last week during our third session, I opened up bluntly about how I feel like my dad let me down and failed me by prioritizing being married and his own happiness. This was not the first time I tried speaking openly to my dad about this, but it is the first time that he appeared willing to listen and the first time that he took the harm it was doing to our relationship seriously. Let me explain. My mom passed when I was just a baby, and my dad was a single dad until I was 4. It was then he met my stepmom / his wife, Sharon. Sharon was a divorced mom with a 9-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. My dad married Sharon when I was 5. Sharon's kids / my step-siblings never liked me. They always hated me. When my dad and Sharon first got married, I thought of them as my siblings and I loved them. But they were really mean to me. They'd say that I should leave. They encouraged me to run away because nobody would miss me. They said I would never be their sister or their family, and I was a weirdo for calling them my siblings. Sharon noticed more than my dad, but I used to tell my dad, and when things got bad, I asked if we could leave. But he'd try and reassure me, but was very dismissive of how much it hurt me. He told me we couldn't leave because Sharon was his wife, and we were all a family now, and you can't leave family. Sharon only ever said anything when her kids made me cry. I have 2 half-siblings from my dad and Sharon. I was so excited when they were born, and I bonded with them and loved helping with them and playing with them. But then my step-siblings decided to use them against me, and they eventually told our half-siblings that if they wanted to do cool stuff with them, they had to say no to playing with me, and rejecting me became the normal thing. My younger siblings would repeat a lot of the things that my step-siblings would say. This continued even after my step-siblings moved out, because they would take our younger siblings out or they would visit them and bring gifts. Eventually, I just became withdrawn and I stopped trying. I don't try to do anything with my younger siblings. I don't hang out with dad like I used to, and my focus is on moving out. My dad started to notice late last year, and he sent me to a therapist and then decided family therapy was needed for the 2 of us. This is when last week happened. My dad looked really shocked at first, and he was apologetic. After we got home, Sharon asked me why I had to be so hard on my dad. My dad and Sharon argued about it. I spent the rest of last week trying to be alone with my thoughts. Our next session is tomorrow. Sharon apologized for saying what she did, but reiterated that she feels like I handled it badly. My dad tried to talk to me since the appointment, but I don't know how to talk to him anymore without our therapist. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. It's bad enough that your dad and Sharon knew about your step-siblings' bullying, But the fact that they didn't shut your step-siblings down when they played childish games with your half-siblings and manipulated them to be nasty to you as well tells me that they are bad parents. You have a right to be angry. Your dad's supposed to be your advocate, and he totally failed you. Am I the jerk for being upset that my boyfriend sleeps at his ex-wife's house when he visits his kids? I, 30 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 33 male, for a little more than a year now. He's been divorced for 2 years now, and he has 2 kids, in their teens, who live in another faraway state, so he can't see them often. When we started talking, it was just casual. He visited his kids then, but it never came up that he stays with his ex-wife while he visits them. Now that we're more serious, he still stays at his ex's house when he visits. He claims it's so he can spend ample time with the kids, and so they can spend holidays and birthdays as a family. I've sat him down and talked to him about how him staying in her house while he's there makes me extremely uncomfortable. I did my best to avoid an argument. I offered to pay for his hotel or airfare to take some of the burden off. An argument still happened. It boiled down to he isn't there for her, he's there for his kids, and that I need to trust that nothing is happening with her. I tried to challenge this by saying it isn't a big deal if he gets a hotel since they're divorced, and why he insists on spending time with her at all since he hates her. He ended up saying I'm mad because I hate his kids, which I don't. Now we aren't speaking. Am I in the wrong for being upset that he stays with his ex when he visits them? Edit. A few people have asked what will I do if we proceed with getting married, or I go visit with him. He brought this up to her before, and she said he could continue to stay with her and I would have to stay in a hotel. I would only be allowed to see the kids at certain times that she dictates, which does not include holidays or birthdays. I most certainly understand that their kids come before any partner. That's not the issue I have. I have no issue with him being a father. I enjoy that aspect of him. I also understand that she does not want me to see her kids, which is well within her rights. When all this came up, he told me that she threatened to go for full custody should he violate any of her rules, so he told me I can't come with him. Edit 2. After reading the comments, I realized that asking him to stay in a hotel when he visits was wrong. My intention was that he stay in a hotel with his kids, since that's something the kids love to do, but I see that it was misinterpreted. I never intended for him to choose between me and his kids because I know he'll pick them first, and I'm absolutely okay with that. He also does not have a custody agreement with his ex. He firmly believes that she will take the kids from him, and the courts will not rule in his favor. I told him I'm here to assist if he decides to change his mind, but will not press it. I talked to him about having a conversation with her about the kids coming to visit us, or all of them coming to visit us. I let him know that she is absolutely welcome to stay in our house, and we would go from there. He said he would consider speaking with her, but not to expect anything to change. You won't win this argument, ever. If it's a boundary for you, then you end it. There's no point in putting yourself through the stress. But for the record, herein am I wrong? That shoe has been on the other foot, and the guy was told it was perfectly acceptable and not to be insecure and controlling. So some of the advice you get may have a particular bent to it. That's not unheard of. I know an ex-couple that still shares a hotel room when we go to kids' events like baseball tournaments and dance competitions. It's strange to me, but they are 100% platonic and they get along great. Am I the jerk for leaving a wedding to go eat at McDonald's? Hi, I'm female 25. Recently, my colleague, female 31, invited me to her wedding, which happened yesterday. I was super excited and happy for her. Just in case, I asked her if there was any guest fees. She said, "No, you don't need to pay me anything." On the day itself, everything went well until the reception, dinner time. To my shock, I was presented with a wedding menu that had prices on it. For example, steak, $50. Everything was ridiculously expensive, including the vegetarian options. At first, I wanted to question her because, well, she lied to me that I didn't have to pay for anything. But it was her wedding, and I didn't want to spoil her day by embarrassing her in front of everyone. However, the only other option was to simply not eat, as I didn't bring enough food for both the meal and a ride back. But this was completely unfavorable, as I had skipped my lunch to save space for the wedding meal, and I was pretty hungry. Suddenly, I remembered that I saw a McDonald's about 5 minutes away from the hotel. As tactfully as I could, I asked the bride if I could make a quick stop to McDonald's as I didn't bring enough money for the reception meal. I said that I'd be back in time for the gift ceremony and cake. I thought she'd agree, but to my horror, she got really upset. She said that she put in so much effort to get this Michelin star restaurant service, yet I still wasn't happy. that I was trying to bring her down by saying that I'd rather eat McDonald's. Alarmed, I said that I didn't mean it that way. I just didn't have the cash for it. She then scoffed, saying, "Whose fault is that?" Although I was trying to keep in my anger, those words really ticked me off. So I told her, "You were the one who lied that I didn't need to pay anything." Getting angry as well, she replied, "What I meant was that there's no attendance fee. You literally assumed that you'd get a free 5-course dinner. Wow, you're cheaper than I thought." With a glare, she asked me to leave her wedding. I did, dumbstruck and rather hurt. And on my way home, I grabbed a Big Mac. Back at home, I told my boyfriend everything, and I asked if I was the jerk. He thought it was a funny story, but said I was the jerk. If I didn't have the money, I could always pay her back later. In his exact words, he said, "You chose the wrong time to be stingy." My other friends agree as well, saying that it was not tactful of me for doing that at the wedding, and although she lied, I should have just brushed it off instead of dampening her happy spirits. After hearing their opinions, I felt quite guilty and embarrassed. However, that one little part of me still thinks that it's justified because 1, she lied to me, and 2, publicly humiliated me. Please help me out. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but I think you handled it wrong. You shouldn't have asked her if it was okay to leave and get McDonald's. You should have done it and come back. The bride/your colleague does sound like a bit of a jerk, and she shouldn't have humiliated you that way. I've never been to a wedding where I had to pay for my own food, and I've been to some very cheap weddings and some expensive weddings. Next time, you'll know to be prepared. Also, did you buy her a gift? Because if you didn't and showed up to get a free meal, then you're a bit of a jerk. Not the jerk. I've never heard of a wedding where the guests are expected to pay for dinner, especially without any notice. The bride's response is BS too. Attendance fees are not a thing at weddings. You asked and she said there was no cost. The misunderstanding is on her. Diva Chef told me to just stand there and be quiet. Okay. Background. Let me take you back into my past. Again, I'm in the kitchen in a large culinary company/catering company. You get these more often than most. A diva in the kitchen. Could be a cook, a chef, or someone with a lot of attitude. Let me introduce to you Chef Smokey, reason explained in a moment. At the time, he was a line cook with some attitude issues. He had just joined on with us and he acted like he was going to be the next top chef in this company. He came over to our main line, looked things over, and then he came to the prep zone. Now the difference is the prep zone and main line are the types of burners. On the main line, we have gas ranges, 6 in fact. And the prep zone, we have almost all L-shaped counters with induction burners set up. On unusually swamped nights, the prep zone will handle appetizers for the main line. The story. Here comes Chef Smokey about to take the lead on appetizers. Myself and one other person are working hard, but apparently not smart enough. So Chef Smokey grabs multiple pans and puts them on the induction burners. He revs them up super high and adds his olive oil. Now there are 2 glitches in this scenario. Issue 1. Induction burners. These older ones use specific pans and special setup to work, so they can be temperamental when they do work. And if you use the wrong pan, either the pan won't work or they act up. Issue 2. Olive oil smokes faster than the normal canola, vegetable, or mixed oil we have on site. Recipe calls for olive oil. We don't pump our induction burners to super high, especially when you're using pans not made for it. The pans work, but they can run super hot, overload the induction burner, or not work at all. He sprays oil onto all 5 pans he has on super high. He gives us a super conceited look. Me. You might not wanna, Chef Smokey. Zip it. Me. But you seriously might not, Chef Smokey. Just be quiet and watch. Me. With all respect, you... I reach to lower the settings on the induction. He nearly spanks my hand. Just stand there and be quiet. Malicious compliance. Okay, learn the hard way. Chef Smokey starts his first pan dropping his appetizer to cook. It comes out great, but as he reaches for his second pan, the oil has already insta-burned. Pan 3, 4, and 5 are also having burnt oil in them. They're smoking. So being a resilient, smart, and problem-solving human he is, he wipes the pans and sprays oil in them. Oil insta-burns. Okay, he tries a new tactic. Chef Smokey drops oil and then drops his appetizer material at the same moment. Nice try. His appetizers instant burn because his oil was already burned quick. He goes through this cycle about 3 times of burning product pretty fast. He gets raging upset. So I try to stop him, but he's gotta try one last time. Burns it again. He lays his oil in his pans again. I lean in and say, "Hey, Smokey the Bear, your oil's burning again." Aftermath. Chef Smokey backs off. Then it's each man to a pan. Heat turned to the moderate level. While Chef Smokey starts the re-prep of the lost product he had burned through, let me note he burned most of the day's product, so he was going to spend the day re-prepping. He spent a good day silent. The guys in the kitchen used my nickname I gave him. Some called him Smokey the Bear, and some called him Chef Smokey, and it stuck till he quit. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.